Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's edition of the Cheat Meal presented by Deep Fried Draft. My name is Brian Bosarge. It is our unofficial 50th edition of the Cheat Meal. So, yay, 50 episodes. Today's going to be a little special. We're going to preview the annual East-West Shrine game that takes place every year down in St. Petersburg. One day I hope to get down there and watch all the practices and the games, but right now that's just not feasible for me. But nonetheless, we're going to go over some of the better players on each of the East and West rosters and talk a little bit about them. There's a lot of good players. This is one of the best Shrine Game rosters they've had in years. So look forward to seeing the game. That'll be a week from this Saturday, Saturday the 20th on NFL Network. But first, before we get into the Shrine Game, the Senior Bowl has announced a couple other quarterbacks. They're going to go with 8 quarterbacks again this year, 4 for each team. And the last 2 quarterbacks they announced are Heisman Trophy winner Baker Mayfield from Oklahoma, currently my number 2 quarterback prospect, and Wyoming's Josh Allen, currently my number 6 quarterback prospect. But Allen has, depending on who you talk to, NFL teams seem to be in love with his skill set. I am not in love with his completion percentage or his inability when he plays good teams to do anything of note, or his inability to shred Mountain West Conference defenses like he should be able to, based on his skill set and talent level. But nonetheless, he'll have a chance to dissuade the doubters, if you will, with a good week of practice in Mobile. That being said, let's get back into the Shrine Game, and we'll start with the East roster. And the best player, in my opinion, on the East roster is going to be quarterback Riley Ferguson. Ferguson from Memphis, I think, is an underrated quarterback prospect. I have him probably in the 70-ish overall, 80-ish overall range, a third-round pick, essentially. But I think Ferguson has the size and tools, and he puts up big numbers. So I think Ferguson will have a chance to have a good week down in Middle Florida there and elevate his stock, if you will. The other top player on that roster is Brandon Faison, a corner from Virginia Tech, currently my number 13 cornerback prospect, 93rd overall, comes from a great tradition of Hokie cornerbacks. He's got some length, some speed, good man cover skills. I like Faison at all, very, very well. An underrated defensive line prospect from South Florida is Deidrin Senat. Senat is a good run plugger with some pass rush ability. Could elevate his game. An edge rusher I'm looking forward to seeing for the first time, heard a lot of good things about him, is Division II Slippery Rock edge rusher Marcus Martin. Never seen him play, but I've heard lots of good things about him. You're going to hear me talk about that a couple of times in this preview. As guys I've never seen play, but guys I'm anxious to see and hear from other reports from people I trust that will be in St. Pete, what they say about guys like Marcus Martin and some other guys we're talking about. Chad Thomas, edge rusher from Miami, currently my number 23 edge rusher. But Thomas is another one that's very solid. I have him, I think he's probably in the 5th to 6th round range right now, but that grade could go up as we get through the process. Another Hurricane is my number 11 offensive tackle currently, Casey McDermott. McDermott is in at probably 3rd tier offensive tackles in your 4th, 5th round range. But he has a solid skill set to work with. Quarterback that intrigues me and how he'll fare. And I want to hear what he does in practice. I think he'll excel in the game because of the way the game is structured. But Quentin Flowers from USF is a guy I want to hear about how he does in practice. Cam Serenier, a tight end from Wake Forest. Love his skill set. Big, strong, physical guy. Can block. high points the ball catching. I think he's a solid mid-round tight end prospect. And another tight end prospect that had never even heard of until his name comes on this roster, but I see his size, and it intrigues me. And that's Damon Gibson, a tight end from Minnesota State Mankato, a Division II school. Let's kick it over to the West roster, and a guy who is, the more I watch him, the more I like him. He's I think he's a safety at the next level, because I don't think he's going to run as fast as he would need to at corner. But Dane Cruikshank from Arizona, he'll play corner in this game. I have him currently as my number 12 rated defensive safety. My highest rated prospect on the West roster is going to be Jake Weineke, wide receiver from South Dakota State. You won't find much more reliable hands than you will with Weineke. His routes are superb. He's not going to blow the top off the defense, which is why I have him down in the third round area. But I think Weineke is definitely going to find a home at the next level. The other top player on this roster is T. Gray Scales, a linebacker from Indiana, currently number 99 overall on my board, and number 7 linebacker. Scales is a tackling machine, fights his way through trash, makes plays. One of the better, definitely the best defensive player on Indiana's roster this year. Not necessarily the best prospect on Indiana. Well, probably is. But I like Scales. Thought he had a chance. Thought he might have been invited to the Senior Bowl, but was not. 3 edge rushers to watch on the West team. Justin Lawler is a guy who I think could elevate during the process from SMU. Great, one of the top all-time pass rushers in FBS history is Javon Rollin-Jones from Arkansas State. Fell like a 1 sack short of Terrell Suggs' FBS sack record. Rollin-Jones is a little undersized, but I think definitely has the skill set to excel as a situational pass rusher in the NFL. Same for Joe Osman from Central Michigan, another highly productive player for the Chippewas. A guy who I think I thought he'd be higher rated than this. I have him just outside of the top 100, and that's Cody O'Connell, guard from Washington State. I mean, Washington State offensive linemen, they're not asked to block for very long, so maybe that's why he's not as thought of, but I like O'Connell. Tight end from Arkansas State, Blake Mack, more of an H-back type, but definitely very productive when asked to be. And finally, another guy I've never seen play, but you talk about size, 6'8.5", 310-pound offensive tackle from Wagner, Greg Sonat. Definitely a guy that I can't wait to hear about how he does against this level of competition during practices at the Shrine game. But Sonat is a guy definitely to keep an eye on. That's going to do it for this edition of the Cheat Meal and our Shrine game preview. As always, follow me on Twitter at Deep Fried Draft, Facebook.com/Deep Fried Draft, YouTube, and the Bumpers app on iOS. I guess it's on Android too. I don't know. I don't have an Android. But find the Bumpers app, download that for the Cheapest Meal podcast. Yeah, that's going to do it. Thanks for watching, everybody. Until next time.